So let's get to this because the futures market this morning did not like what they saw. European markets did not like what they saw. But you say everybody needs to take a breath.
I mean, yeah. So look, I think this is one of those moments where the headline feels a lot more dramatic than it actually is because the underlying situation really hasn't changed that much. The terror threat was already there. It just got a louder microphone over the weekend because the markets are closed and people had nothing else to react to. So this has been the same negotiating playbook this administration has done for the past year. You start with a punishing headline that lands on a weekend or a holiday. You escalate it fast. The futures wobble when they reopen, and then the reality sets in that nothing really has changed that much because the tariffs aren't live yet. And the whole point is to force a deal before they actually become real. So again, if you're a long-term investor, I think the main job right now is to separate that volatility from the fundamentals. If the market sells off because a multi-year AI demand curve is breaking, then sure, this makes sense. But right now, this is purely policy theater that I think is going to create an opportunity that's disguised as fear.
Yeah, well, and, one of the things I noticed in the NASDAQ today is there could be this sense that the Europeans are going to once again try to attack our technology companies here. They've been doing it for decades, going after them for fines, et cetera. So we'll see if that plays out. But the rhetoric, at least for now, signals that the Europeans are going to fight back until, well, they get to Davos and they see the president in person. So we'll see. But, it has been an interesting story that's been playing out. Also, look, it's easy to let emotions get the best of you when you're investing your money, especially when it's a little volatile, which this year might be. How should our viewers navigate the fear of missing out versus the fear of buying at the top? We feel like we are in that moment right now.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I've been a very early AI and space investor the past couple of years, and I can tell you that the hardest part of becoming a growth investor, especially for newer investors, is you're constantly stuck between these two fears. The first fear of missing out when something is ripping, and the fear of being the extra liquidity when you finally buy it. Most people bounce around between these two extremes, and that's why you end up either chasing at the wrong time or freezing and never building that position at all. And I think that the uncomfortable truth that a lot of investors need to focus on is growth stocks will never look cheap. I think I was very early in Palantir and Rocket Lab. People were telling me Palantir in the 40s was overvalued and expensive, but they're approaching $200. Like they're basing in the 200s. Rocket Lab, when it was in the 30s, they were saying it's too expensive. But look, they're about to hit $100 just a couple months later. So if you want exposure to these early disruptors and these long secular growth themes, they're never going to look cheap for you. And you have to make sure you nibble, take your time in accumulating these positions, because if you overextend yourself or you basically buy the top all in, you're going to be the first one that sells the moment that stock pulls 10 or 20%. And you cannot be bullish on a theme, then you got scared out of your position so early in this theme.
You mentioned Rocket Lab, the charts on your screen for our viewers, but you say the U.S. does not want to rely on one company for space access. So Rocket Lab is becoming the backup pillar to SpaceX, which obviously is the hotly anticipated IPO. I want to move over to the semiconductor space. You note that Taiwan Semiconductor's earnings prove that AI is a real business with real demand, certainly. But we know there are going to be winners, there are going to be losers. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, TSMC every quarter has been the lie detector of the AI economy. And I think their message, their specific earnings report was that the bottleneck is expanding towards not just the chips, but towards testing the chip, moving the signals across the systems, feeding the data. So the first one we see right now is Amkor. I think Amkor is a massive winner in this next leg of this AI cycle because the next bottleneck is packaging. Since you can have the best silicon in the world, but if you don't package the chiplets, stack the memory, move the signals clearly, then the systems never ship effectively. So that's the first one. The second one is air test systems. I think that's one that a lot of people don't really talk about enough because testing sounds boring until you realize failures are no longer tolerable when the capacity is this tight and silicon is continuing to be this expensive. So the defects matter and you have to prevent that.
Well, you've got Pure Storage, you've got Astro Labs, you've got Air, and then you've obviously got Amkor. I don't have much time with you, but I want to pivot back to that SpaceX story because that is a sector for you, space in general. So they're reportedly interviewing bankers for the highly anticipated IPO. Do you think this is another example of a win for the investment banks and a loss for retail investors?
I disagree because I do believe that, again, SpaceX going to become the first $1 trillion IPO in history. It is going to be the anchor of this multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem that's just getting started. We just got evidence in AI what an industrial build out can mean for specific early winners, aka Nvidia. Now with SpaceX, like they are the AWS, they're the Lockheed Martin. They are just like so many powerhouses in this ecosystem that's just getting started. And then you're seeing when an anchor of the ecosystem gets priced a certain way, the whole component of that ecosystem gets re-rated. And that's where you're seeing Rock Lab being re-rated as a second pillar of this space economy. Now it's a $70 billion company. You have ASTS turning space into a global cellular network. Like that is turning into the American Tower space. Then we also have Planet Labs. Like they sit at a very different layer of the space economy, but they are benefiting substantially too because it's a high tide result boat situation for that whole bucket.
Yeah, no, we were showing that as well. Well, Shay, obviously there's a lot of excitement around other sectors. Space is certainly a fascinating one to follow. Shay, thank you for being here.